Greetings! Welcome to the Devlog for experimental build 8 of Update 111 of Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. We're going to start off as always with a quick sound check. Make sure speakers aren't up too high. Oh no! You messed it up for me! Haha! Ah, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So, what have we got for you this week? Well, this week was a big testing and tuning week. Any of you who've been hanging around the Discord have seen the notifications. Basically, during the week, I did 3 separate hot fixes instead of waiting for today to get things into the game. And that's because I've been really focused on balance and difficulty as it relates to the new Take and Hold character, but also some of those changes are just sort of coming to Take and Hold in general. So the first big one is that some of the I've made some tweaks to the various operator SOSIGs, and we can go ahead and spawn a medium, light, and heavy here to demonstrate. So the first thing that's super obvious is that their night vision goggles are now different. Instead of all having quad nods, they now have 2, 3, and 4, so that when you are at extreme distance from them, it is now significantly easier to immediately identify them based on their threat level. In addition to that, I have tuned, and let's get ourselves a handy dandy testing weapon here. Yeah, M16A4. Why not? Why not? So let's go ahead and grab that. Throw on a handle sight. Beautiful. So the big changes basically is that the lights now have a separate damage profile from the mediums in terms of not just their armor, but in terms of the actual body. So if we actually shoot this one center mass with 45, it will, I don't think that will, one hit will still bring them down. I still believe, yeah, it takes a second one to do it. Sorry, buddy. There we go. Yes, 2 will reliably do it. The medium has been altered now in that basically I have cut apart its collision volumes, and the gas mask now has 2 separate regions to it. There's the lower portion that has these areas here, because this is a double collider. This is the most durable part of the mask. But the lower part of the mask now, a 45 will not do anything to, but this part here is now coated as plastic. So while that one shot isn't enough to stun, you can see that it causes bleed, and several in rapid succession, like that, will eventually cause a link pop. So one of the changes was ensuring that, accuracy should be rewarded. So it shouldn't require needing an absolute super weapon to do damage to them. There should always be a front-facing weak point. And so similarly, if we have a rifle here, sorry, buddy. There we go. If you actually hit the weak part of the visor, that will go through. The nods themselves as well are no longer coated as metal, but plastic. So I believe with a rifle round, yep, that will still go through. Sorry. And I love my little SOSIGs. I hate doing this to them sometimes, but it's their job. And then our heavy here has gotten some modification, as I said, in that the nods are no longer coated as metal, they're coated as plastic, and the sort of center part of the visor that is here and here is now a little less bullet resistant, so even FMJ should actually be able to get through, cause fairly significant bleed damage. The heavies are still durable. They're still not going to go down. You might have to knock them down several times, or do a combo where you hit them in the visor. Come on, actually hit it. Like so. And then hit them in the fabric part of a link. Let's try this again. Or in the bottom link like so. So I know those still feel pretty tough, and there are certain people who are like, this becomes very overwhelming the moment there's more than one of them, and you're just sort of spamming away. And that is actually why there's some pretty significant changes to the to the progression for the competitive character that I will talk about in a minute. But while we're in VR, I want to show another thing. One of the things that, was the thumbnail for this week is that Quest 3 support is in, and with it, because of, that has a bit of an asterisk next to it. There's sort of two things. One is that the controller position relative to your real controllers is not perfect. I basically had to eyeball it because there's no official Quest 3 controllers in the Steam VR runtime yet. When they put them in, the pivots are exact. I had to kind of like eyeball it. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But we also have a new option under the options panel. This is just known as miscellaneous features now. There's now something called controller display override. Right now, this requires a scene reload for it to take into effect. But if you want to see, we can hit Quest 3 here, reload our scene. Oops, that didn't work. That's weird. Okay, think I fixed this. It's always something. It's always something. Miscellaneous features. Quest 3. All right. Reload scene. Haha, there we go. It was, of course, as so many programming errors are, an off by one error. So there you can see, now has the Quest 3 controllers in there. As I said, they're not perfectly aligned. I think my meshes might be slightly low from where they are and slightly out, but they should be close enough for generally not smacking your controllers into each other. As you can see, they're teeny little things. So yeah, so that is now in there, and if at any point you have, I don't know what sort of circumstances would arise, but if you ever need to make your controllers look like a different platform, maybe if you're filming something, what have you, you can do so. Also, the reason that I put this in here in the first place is that if you are playing on a Quest 3 via Virtual Desktop has to use the old Oculus PC stuff. And Meta has not bothered updating that, which means that H3 can only see your device as a Quest 2. It is no way of differentiating whether you're running on a Quest 2 or Quest 3. So if you're running on a Quest 3, go into this menu, go into miscellaneous features, controller display override, hit Quest 3, reload your scene. It'll save this option and you'll be able to play with your proper controllers there. If at any point something changes about the way the Oculus PC stuff works or the way Virtual Desktop is able to work, this feature won't be necessary. But until then, this is the best I can offer you if you're using Virtual Desktop. If you're just using AirLink or link cable, it won't matter to you. It'll just pass through and it actually reports them as the system as a Quest 3. So there you go. Anywho, let's jump out of VR and talk about all the other taken hold changes and bug fixes and such and balance changes that are in this update. So what else is in this update? First, the things that affect all of Taken Hold and the game as a whole. The first big change is that when you're playing Taken Hold, every wave that comes at you of enemies has essentially two profiles defined. There is a leader profile and an enemy profile. And the way that this has worked in the past is when that wave spawns, one leader will spawn, and based upon the size of the wave, everyone else will be enemies. And when after a certain amount of time passes, another wave spawns, and it basically looks at what the maximum population is allowed to be alive, and will spawn up to a certain number of enemies, starting with the leader. Now, the problem with this is that if you have a situation like our heavy SOSIG operators, where you are more than likely going to be killing the sort of medium armor ones faster than the heavies, what will happen is over the course of that wave, the leaders of each wave are surviving, the enemies are not, and then you've got a room full of 4 or 5 heavies, and it's impossible to deal with unless you have one of like 4 guns or 2 ammo types, and it's not very fun. So instead, I have changed the way this works across the entire mode, which is that the hold point tracks the leader SOSIG and only allows one of them to be alive at a time. So when a new wave is spawned, instead of spawning a new leader and a bunch of enemies, if the leader is still alive, it will only spawn extra enemies into the room. This allows the heavy operator in this mode, but also the leader, Sosig, and a bunch of other modes to function sort of like a raid boss, as the, in terms of the squad. They're the one special enemy that you can either choose to prioritize or avoid while you're fighting the other ones. And I think it just will end up making the purpose of this in a big way is just to make difficulty a little more predictable in a way that allows people to build sane strategies and not have to rely on 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 equipment combinations to be able to succeed at things. So I think it presents a fairer challenge and a smoother challenge over the course of a run and between a bunch of runs. So I think this will be a really, really good change. And I think as we sort of iterate with the difficulty of the competitive character, this, like, the beginning had been feeling really good. Like holds 1 through 3, by the time we were done with the hot fixes, felt really dialed in. But 4 and 5 still felt kind of ridiculous because of the number of heavies you'd be fighting at once. So I think in this circumstance, making it so there's only ever one of them at a time makes them a situation you can actually think about and use tactics involving, instead of just, hoping to get an M249 with AP. So the next one is that the scoring rubric of the mode has been altered to emphasize the kill score and kill style score a little more. When I was looking at the scores for coming out of people who are trying it, both with the new competitive character and just on regular take and hold modes, the points for headshots and things like that were just too low, and kill streaks relative to other things. And so that has been emphasized by a good deal. And then the other thing that has been a source of irritation, because I want to have Sosigs here and there that actually use explosives. And I know the Sosig grenades have long been a source of deep irritation to some people. And so what I have done is I've made it so that the Sosig explosives have a slightly smoother damage fall-off curve, but a lower peak damage. And so what this should basically mean is that if you end up getting hit by a Sosig M79 or a Sosig RG6, it will not just be a one-hit kill most of the time. And there's still a bug involving these guys, which I might try to fix before, based upon, let's see, it's 319 now. I might have time to fix it, where sometimes patrols can just blow themselves up because their grenades don't have any sort of arming distance. So we'll see if I can't fix that today, I'll fix it next week. But that's been, the M79, RG6, and Sosig frag grenade just have saner damage curves, because still want them to be, I like having AoE threats for the player. I think they're interesting forms of area denial from the enemies. It gives you a priority target that you just have to deal with very, very fast, because cover's not going to be effective in the same way if they shoot next to it. But I don't want to just end your run instantaneously in those circumstances. I want you to have a moment to respond, even if you take some damage doing so. So we'll test and see if those are dialed in right, but that should make things a bit better. And then the Scalpel's drum magazine, the shotgun, has been changed to carry 00 buck instead of swag 12, because that weapon allowed you to get around the ammo limitations of Tournament Toby. In terms of Tournament Toby specific things, as I said, the hold 5 enemy sequencing now only has heavy operators for squad leaders. The sort of the rest of Sosigs that spawn during that time are just enemies. And while this hold 5 isn't quite complete yet, because I don't have cascading encryption fixed yet, but by the time all of the new encryptions are in and dialed in, that should be where the difficulty should be escalating. It's just making that a more complex problem to solve alongside a fair fight. And I tweaked the spawn cadences for holds 4 and 5 to just make them a little more sane. Cool. And then just fixed mostly just metadata errors, some issues with collision sound, and some weird issues with smoke grenades that were just, I guess people don't use smoke grenades much, because I have no idea how long the bug that was in there. There was this weird bug where you'd spawn one and the grenade would just be hissing at you from the get-go without having been primed. But then you would throw it and you wouldn't hear any sound. It was really bizarre. but it should be fixed now. And then the last thing, I keep forgetting that this has been in the change log, but I can't remember if I've mentioned this in the devlog. But the game crashes on close for lots of people. This is fixed on the Steam VR beta, by the way. It's Valve broke the game, not us. There's nothing we can do about it. It will when what's on Steam VR beta branch goes to main. This will be fixed, but until then the menu just says crash to desktop instead of quit. So when it says quit again, you'll know it's been fixed. So yeah, so that just about does it for this week. I know I don't have any exciting new toys for you and things like that. This whole week was taken by just iterating with the first to worst and competitive community, just trying to make sure that the sort of upper bound of challenge for the game is what people enjoy, will be what will put on a good tournament once we get the new level in. And just using that as an opportunity to just tune and review a bunch of little things about the mode in a way that improves the quality of experience for everyone playing Take and Hold. So yeah. Anywho, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Let me know if I broke anything with this, and I'll see y'all soon. Peace.